Well, good evening and welcome to Homegrown. My name is Harry Wareing. It's an honor to be here with Kerry Kearney tonight on LTV. And this is a chance, and I want to say thank you to everyone at LTV for giving me this opportunity. It's very cool to sit down with some great, talented people and get to know them. You know, we do a lot of interviews where we talk about, a new record that's coming up, and that's important. But I love getting to know the artist and kind of see what drives them, what motivated them. And also, I love talking to them about kind of the moment when they decided to make that decision to really go for it and really try to make a career in music. And Kerry is amazing. When I first started at EHM, I guess, way back in 2007, everyone's like, all right, you got to know Gene Casey, you got to know this, but you got to know Kerry Kearney. And there was one night, I think we were doing a promotion, and we were like, all right, we want to make sure there's people there. So they're like, do it the night Kerry Kearney's going to be there. And that's how I first was introduced to your music. And it's really an honor to chat and sit down with you tonight. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Harry. Thanks. It's great.
I really appreciate it. I guess we should start at the beginning and go back to when you first, I guess, picked up a guitar and how old you were and where did it all begin for Kerry?
It all started with seeing the Beatles on TV. You ask pretty much any musician of my age or a little older than me.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the same answer actually at the same time. It's really funny, but I remember seeing them and getting a little and demanding probably a little plastic ukulele or something that they can get for me. You know what I mean? So I did that, and for years I always wanted to play. My older brother is a guitar builder. Actually, he's a great guitar builder. I have a couple of guitars home that he built me. And what it is he played guitar in 1965. He got his first Fender guitar he got. I remember going to the store with my dad and him to get it, and it was a beautiful red Mustang guitar. You know what I mean? Guitar players know what it is out there. And I remember the smell of the case. I remember the whole thing. I remember looking at it and being like, "Wow, this is unbelievable."
How old were you?
I was probably about 5.
Wow.
Maybe a little bit younger. But I wanted to play so bad, and it was beautiful. It was just like fire engine red color. It's called Dakota Red. It was gorgeous. And so for years, I kind of, I just loved music, loved it. And then when I was around 10 or so, I really took off to really wanting to do it a lot. I was into baseball, like all kids were into sports. And I found one day I wanted to play guitar really bad. And I went to the store with my parents, and they got me a little, like $35, they call it a Tiesco Del Rey, they call it. That was an old Japanese company that used to make guitars all over, with all different names.
Yeah.
They have like K, they have like Silvertone, all these ones for America. But the Japanese ones started coming in at the time. So I got one of those, about $35. And I used to sit there and just in the front of the mirror, everywhere, just like making noise on it pretty much, you know what I mean? So for a long time. So a good friend of mine, Bill Fleming from Breezy Point at the time, he was a really fantastic musician. His whole family was all great. And actually, his brother plays in the band called the Electrics. They play all over the island, like a Grateful Dead band they play in. Really, really great. Anyway, he played piano, played guitar a little bit at the time. Plays guitar great now. And he showed me a couple of chords, and that was it. I just took off from there at the same time.
Where did you grow up? What town on the island?
I grew up in Brooklyn originally, and then I grew up in Breezy Point, which at one time was zoned Long Island.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's part of, actually, like I was telling before, I was saying, like Montauk is this end.
And you were at the other end.
I'm at the exact other end like that, at the same time. So it's, like that. I find Long Island as being a great word I'm looking for. I can't say maybe like a mecca of unbelievable musicians. It's its own world. It really is. And like a lot of great bands came out of here. A lot of great musicians come out of here. And because of all the towns that are out here and stuff, you can play on the South Shore one day, and you'll have a whole crew of people that are down there. Yeah. And then you'll play on the North Shore the next week. And a whole different crew is over there at the same time. When you're in Brooklyn and Queens and those areas playing like that, it's pretty much you shot the whole thing at one area. Like if you play in Queens, that's it, like for a while probably. Or Manhattan or whatever, or the city in a lot of ways. But it seems like here is like so much going on and so much you can do. People per capita, whatever it is. So, it's really a great place. But I mean, and the amount of music is amazing, the amount of stuff there is out there. I mean, there's great bluegrass music. There's everything. There's blues, there's pop, there's everything, folk.
Yeah. Now, when you were, I guess, 10, 11 years old and you're just starting to play the guitar, what drew you to the blues? I guess, if I was picking up a guitar at that age, I want to learn from the best. Where did you go to kind of figure this whole thing out?
When I was...
Because I feel like it's probably easier now for kids because you've got the internet. You could find anything.
You could find anything.
But at that time, it was probably a little more difficult to research. Because if I remember correctly, I think you said once that you wanted to learn who inspired Clapton and B.B. King at the time and those artists that you wanted to kind of go back to the roots to see where it began.
Well, that's a great question. Really a good question, actually. And when I was around 12, I was starting to play out a little more. I had a little band going like that, and sorry, I have an analogy. And what happened was I was listening to the Layla album, Layla with Derek and the Dominoes. I loved Cream. My brother actually had all the albums back then, my brother Tim. And so I listened to a lot of Johnny Winter, this and that. So one day I was playing the Layla album, and he came in one day, and he took the album off. He said, "Listen, I want to show you something." He put it on. He didn't say anything. And it was B.B. King live at the Regal, it was called, from 1964. And I'm listening to it, I'm saying, wow, it sounds like Eric. And he goes, no, Eric sounds like him. He goes, you got to really see this. He goes, you got to listen to this and understand what's going on. And so in that sense, when I first did that, I was like so blown away by it. And the way and to me it was real. It had this thing that was like, it wasn't really rock and roll, but I understand like where rock and roll is coming from.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was so, it's like when you go to to an art gallery and you see like some of the greats, you're looking at the way the light is, the way this is, the way that is, and you see where people came from at a certain kind of almost primitive point of when it was happening, before the internet, before this and that, before a lot of stuff. And you have like BB coming from like, Mississippi, coming from, Memphis, those areas like that. And he's coming from really, there was nothing back then in that sense. All of a sudden but that was the whole culture of the blues back then. Yeah. And so listening to it and hearing it. And so from that, after that one day, it was like a revelation. I started getting into like, Lightning Hopkins from like Texas and Elmore James and stuff like that. And all these really great, Mississippi John Hurt, which is like really great. I'll play something similar to that later when play. And it's just really, really amazing. And you see what people have taken from that. Guys like John Sebastian, really, really great fingerpick guitar player. He takes from like Mississippi John Hurt a lot of times. Or you see like Clapton taking it from Albert King, Freddie King, B.B. King, the Three Kings. You know what I mean? Always great people like that. The Allman Brothers, of course, all the stuff like that. And that's where, so I wanted to like get their education. Yeah. So instead of me getting it secondhand, I wanted to get why they're so individual, why these guys can play the same type of guitar and be so individually different.
I feel like you were not your average teenager, because that's amazing, because you really wanted to see how it was all interconnected and how it built step by step.
I kind of put it together like that. That's the thing. I kind of felt that was going to be it. And it was a strange world to get into, because it was like very, very, coming up from my background of where I lived and this and that, like, I lived on the beach, kid, blah, 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 and that kind of stuff. And hitting into this kind of, like my parents were into like a little bit of jazz, my father liked classical music. Yeah. But I started diving into this whole different world of the blues, of how these people grew up in a certain sense. I went down to Memphis. I went to Mississippi. I wanted to see like what it was all about, and seeing this and how really far away. Like when you think of Clapton coming from like England, and all of a sudden like it's like Chuck Berry, it's Robert Johnson, it's blah blah blah. There's nothing further away than it's on a different planet than how he grew up in a certain sense. And I feel the same way. Like it's on a certain way, it's on a different planet. Although I'm from America, I hear American music. Yeah. Them, it's like it's not American music, but they're in England. They're in a whole different place. It's pretty wild. So, and he really, a person like Eric Clapton. Well, I think to me, he's the top. I mean, I love Jimi Hendrix. I think he's great. There's a lot of guitar players out there, But as a guy that started like in like '66, that album came out with John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. It just turned its ear on the whole place. It was amazing. Like the Beatles were doing what they were doing, the Stones doing what they were doing. But here comes this guy that's actually sounding like Freddie King or those guys. A guy, really wild.
What kind of band were you in in your teenage years, as you're learning to kind of mastering the guitar, so to speak, and learning how to grow with it? What kind of band did you want to be in, and how did it grow? I guess I'm curious how you were so attracted to the blues.
I was with a band called the Night Riders. We were called. We were young, about 16, and we started playing in bars. Then here we go again with the whole thing. It's you look back then. I'm sure you're a lot younger than this, but back then you could drink when you were 18 years old. So from high school, we would go and we get a gig in a place. Yeah. They think we were 18. We look like we were 18. And so we play. I mean, there's a million stories of that in the naked city, as you would say. But it was a southern rock band. Yeah. And I was into, like I said, Cream and Clapton and a lot of kind of stuff like that. So what I would do is I'd bring that into the band. A lot of southern rock stuff we had, like Allman Brothers, that kind of stuff, Leonard Skinner, and which was all from that blues, genre also at the same time, what they learned from. So I did that, and that's when I really started hitting it hard. Also, I've been, here we go again. I've been sober for 42 years.
Oh, wow.
I stopped drinking when I was 17,
Wow.
and that was a big thing for me to hit.
Did that, and I'm curious because I don't want to get too deep into that, but I am curious how that changed your mindset, or was it the focus where you kind of shifted, were laser pinpoint focus to music, and you knew that you had to?
Yeah, it was kind of a therapy for me, a lot of ways. I had a golden retriever. That was my therapy also, but I find that I couldn't really, at that age, it's really difficult, and I really put out for people today that are having substance abuse problem and this and that. I don't think I really had a problem. I just drank too much, pretty much. As a kid, I loved beer. I still have old dual smoke. I love the taste of it, pretty much. But the thing is, I don't, like I said, I don't do it. But it's something that got me focused on something that it took me away from what was going on. And a lot of my friends, they still were going to parties, doing stuff like that. And I wasn't really, for me to hang out with them, I'd probably fall off the wagon of what I was doing, you know what I mean? So I kind of kept to myself for a long time. I really did. And that was a big, it was a big thing to do. It was a big thing for me to do that. And I find if you could find something you really love, and I say to this day, it's funny, I'll go somewhere and I'll look in the guitar store and I'll just look around and I'll be like, it just never went away from me. It wasn't like a hobby.
Yeah.
It's like something that was like inherent into your system that when you do it, you love it all your life.
Did you take any lessons, or how were you trained?
No, there's a friend of mine gave me a couple of chords and I just went from there pretty much like that. And I just understood like where it went from there like that. And I highly recommend, doing that. It's really good to get lessons with people if you want to do things. Well, I find that if you really are, it's love too. It's the love of it. You know what I mean? Guys like, a lot of friends of mine too. Like you said, you had Gene Casey on before. Like you tell like he's, he loves, what he does. Yeah. I mean, it's not something that he probably learned. It's something that's in him. He's just a great musician, you know what I mean? No. And he's an example of that type of thing that I'm thinking about. Is that when you have it in you, it's just like you just love it. You love hearing about it. You love hearing about, old records and old guitars and old things, old musicians, and new stuff, whatever it is. It's all, the interest is always there. I'm always humming. I'm always singing something. I'm walking down a block. I'm always whistling. It's just something that's in me all the time.
It sounds. I mean, you were 3 when you picked up the ukulele, so I feel like it's certainly been there
for plastic uke.
for forever. Question 2: late in your teens, I think you were 19. I read that you learned to play the slide guitar. Where did that? And it sounds like that was part of at 17. You kind of shifted your focus to really throw yourself into. What gave you the idea to do that? What prompted it?
A good friend of mine. He was a guitar player friend of mine. He said to me, "You should play slide. You'd really be good at it." And I just said, I said, "Yeah, I like the way it sounds." So I started delving into it a little bit. And the first slide tune I heard was I've heard Dwayne before and that kind of stuff. But there was a Johnny Winter album called Nothing But the Blues, and it was with Muddy Waters. Okay. And on the cover, he's smoking a cigarette with the guitar at a big mixing board, and he's got the guitar, the silver National guitar. He's got this beautiful old guitar. I'm looking at him like, this is unbelievable. So I put it on, and it's one called TV. I think it's called TV Mama. I think it was. It's a blues tune he has. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And he played it's the same tuning I have on my thing right now, actually. Yeah. And he played on that. And I kind of listened to that a little bit, understand the workings of it, what was going on. And I used that as like kind of a template to kind of go from that to other things that were like that at the same time. So I listened to Dwayne, all that stuff. But it just turned me on. When I heard it and listened to it, the more and more I heard it, it was just loving it. I delved back into Blind Willie Johnson, all these people that were, of course, Robert Johnson, of how it really primitive, really way back when, Muddy Waters.
How long did it take to learn?
Not long. I was mentioning something about it. I picked it up one day and I played around with it. My brother, he was a great guitar player. My brother Tim. He showed me the fingering, and like I was saying, it's more of my picking hand than it is my sliding hand that really makes what it does. Yeah. And you kind of like it's almost like I'm typing, but I'm doing this. I'm dampening strings and hitting a string at the same time. So I'm making a sound at the same time I'm dampening the other strings to stop the sound coming out. So I just sat there for a while and it just kind of came to me pretty easy.
It's amazing how that works.
Literally in an afternoon.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Whatever. But then the notation you have to kind of learn after a while. But it came. But I realized that this is really the hard part. Some people play with a pick. Some guys like Joe Walsh. Yeah. They play with a guitar pick. They make it sound great. You know what I mean? So
Now at this age, you were in bands in your teen years. You're doing gigs. When did you decide that this was? Did you have like a day job, so to speak? Did you go to school? Like, when did you just say, I want to try this? And I'd imagine, what did your parents say? Like, where were?
well, it's funny you say that. I mean, this is what happened. I was going to be a policeman,
Okay.
a New York City cop. I was all ready to go for the academy and stuff like that. I was working with a couple of friends of mine. I was doing a modular office maintenance, it was called, my friend Richie. And it was like right before this all happened. And we were putting up things in offices, these modular office things like that. He had this great business. So I did that for him maybe for a couple of years, not really. This is like I was still like in my early 20s.
Okay.
Kind of bumming around kind of thing. I was playing in a band, doing this and that. So I was getting things going like that. And then when the police department came up, I went to the police department. So it was literally a week to go to that. And, let me step back a little bit really quick. A friend of mine was a road guy, and he was a manager for the Jefferson Starship at the time in San Francisco. And they called the band that I played when I was playing here then. This is like this is 1986, maybe 87. Wow. And so he said, I was probably about 20, 26. He said, listen, we want an opening band for this Palace of Fine Arts Toys for Tots benefit. Would you guys come and play? Yeah. And we all said, absolutely, this is unbelievable. We're going to play before, these guys. So we went there, we did a show. And after the show, Marty Ballin, the lead singer, came up to me after we did our opening act and said, wow, what a great guitar player you are. And I thought he was being nice. I thought this guy was being cool, like we're here. So I didn't think about it, went home, kept doing what I was doing with the office maintenance and all that stuff. And I was having a bad relationship back here. And a friend of mine who was their manager guy, he called me and said, listen, why don't you come out for a week? Just come out. Just bring it. I have guitars here. Don't worry about it. Just get away. I know you're not doing well right now. So I got on a plane. I went out there. And he owned an old church. Actually, Marty Ballin owned an old church. And it was a rehearsal hall. Wow. And he had people living upstairs and stuff like that, kind of communal, kind of hippie-like. Yeah. It was right outside San Francisco, beautiful in Marin County, in San Anselmo. And so what happened was my friend called Marty and said, listen, that kid is here that you like that time, guitar player. And so he came over. We sat down, we played one day. Together, we just jammed a little bit. Wow. He says, listen, I'm going to bring back I'm bring some songs tomorrow. You want to do some more with me? And I was like, I'd love to do some stuff, to work on stuff. So I didn't really think of anything. I slept on the couch that night. I was
there for a week, yeah.
Out there, yeah. So I'm there. It's like maybe the third day. And so he came and he took out all his sheets. And all his sheets were handwritten by him from the Jefferson Starship days. So he had some Jefferson Starship songs. He was, can you try this and try this? So I'm just playing with him, just jamming with him, doing it. I play by ear pretty much. Yeah. So he said to me at the end of that conversation, he says, listen, I'm going on tour for like 3 months. Do you want to come with me as my guitar player? Wow. And I said, I didn't even think twice. I just said, sounds great. So I called home and blah, blah, blah. Went back here, got all my stuff together. Obviously didn't go to the police department. And I threw my stuff on an airplane, went there. For 3 weeks, we practiced every day with a band from the area. It was his solo. He was going to do a solo act. So I said, I put it all together, and one day a big tour bus came by outside. And a couple of road guys came out and said, Kerry Kearney goes, come on, how you doing? And they opened up the bottom of the bus. They put all my stuff on the bottom and said, come on in. And I had a bunk on board and stuff like that, all this stuff. And I didn't come home for 5 years.
That started it, wow.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I mean, I came home in between, but it was like, that was it. I made that was my place.
That was the moment, yeah.
And yeah, that was it. And you really know what you want to do in life when are exhausted and you literally exhausted. You go to a town 300 miles away every night. Boom, 300 miles here. Boom, you're going because you can't play within a certain amount of area. Yeah. Like the Great South Bend.
Yeah, you have to sign
you got to be like at least 50 miles away from what's going on. So we had to go from Kentucky to like Indiana to blah blah blah. So we'd be going all these places. Really, really great theaters, great clubs that he was playing at the time. And I mean, I'd be driving, and then all through the night, the bus driver knew a lot of songs. He was a road manager for David Crosby at one time. So I'd sit in the front seat of the bus. It was an Eagle coach, it was called, 45 feet, had 12 bunks, and in the back it had a big stateroom. You
were just soaking everything in.
It was unbelievable. It was, so I'd sit there and play with him all night, drink coffee.
That's great.
And we'd play, and then the next day I'd wake up in the afternoon. We'd be at a place to do a sound check, wait around, play. So 3 nights in a row, all of a sudden you're like, I mean, I don't do drugs. I don't drink, and I'm beat up to death.
Was
But I'm
that
saying
was that difficult?
the difficult thing was having time to rest.
Okay.
Although you're only on for about an hour and 15, hour and a half. That's how long a show is. It's like you got
Well, I
to
can
kind of
imagine
like lay around.
was it difficult not drinking and not
Oh,
and,
that
and
you
being
mean.
part of because I'd imagine
No,
there's a
not at all.
segment.
Not at all. It was very easy for me. A lot of people in the band didn't either, and
Yeah.
he was pretty much straight too.
That's
So
interesting.
at the time, and it was in that case. But the thing I'm talking about is that you have the rest part of it,
Yeah.
or to get up there like that, and within a minute of me like getting my guitar on and being ready to fall down, I was like boom, right into it, and that was it. And I said, you know what you want to do in your life, if it's, they say, I mean, if you find a job you love, you never work a day in your life.
Very true. We're chatting with Kerry Kearney on Homegrown here on LTV, and Kerry's going to play some songs for us tonight.
Yeah,
Why don't we do one right now?
Sure.
And we'll chat a little. I'd love to. Actually, I want to see like what happened and kind of talk about the beginning of the Kerry Kearney band
All right, cool.
when we come back, because I want to see how that blossomed and how it sounds like you really had an amazing experience over those 5 years that kind of shaped and moved you in that direction. So let's chat in just a bit. Kerry Kearney live here on Homegrown on LTV. What song you like to do?
I'm not sure.
We'll figure it out. Well, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm to the crossroads and I fell down on my knees. Went to the crossroads and I fell down on my knees. I asked the Lord for mercy. Would you say, Poor Bob, if you please? I went down to Rosedale with my rider by my side. Went down to Rosedale with my rider by my side. Powerhouse now, baby, I'm by the riverside. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can run. Tell my friend, boy, Willie Brown. I run, you can run. Tell my friend, boy, Willie Brown. Standing at the crossroads, I believe I'm sinking on down. Yeah, one more time, baby.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Kerry Kearney here on Homegrown on LTV. We're going to go in a little bit deeper. We went back to when he was 3 and picked up a guitar for the first time, and now we want to kind of travel along and talk about the journey. You mentioned the tour bus showing up for 5 years.
Yes.
You were all over the place with Marty Ballin and different musicians. When did you decide to start the Kerry Kearney band? What year? I guess what year was the tour bus, so to speak? Was that 80?
Like 88 till
Okay.
90,
Yeah.
92.
So how did it progress as far as you were obviously on the road a lot, but who were you on the road with through at that time?
You know, it was Marty all that time, pretty much. We went to Russia. We went there for 2 weeks.
Wow,
It was amazing, actually.
what year did you go? I'm curious.
It was 89. It was
Okay.
right when things started falling, coming back to whatever it was, you know what I mean?
What was it like to perform in front of an audience, a Russian audience? I have to imagine it was
He had actually a hit there.
okay.
A hit song that was done by a Russian artist. It was called Hearts. It was a song that's he had here. And we actually heard it in a hotel as we were walking through by the other artist, because it was a pretty big hit
yeah.
song at the time, yeah. He had a big solo album after the Starship, and we kind of went out. He never toured that album, so we went out as like his touring band for that album is what it was. And so, but the people like watching it, we were the only band. It was a There's this big kind of like exchange thing going on
Okay.
with artists and musicians and stuff like that going on with this thing. So we played the whole thing with a bunch of with all these Russian musicians and acrobats and all this stuff on this one big stage at this Rosia Hotel. It's kind of like an Ed Sullivan show. Put it to you this way, it's pretty funny. There were 3 stations in Russia at the time. One was the Politburo, all talking stuff.
Yeah.
One was a news station, and one was a variety station.
Wow.
Now, what do you think everybody watched? Out of a billion people, what do you think everybody watched?
Variety, of course.
So I walked out of the hotel, and it was like I was Elvis.
That's crazy.
Because I had I had a denim jacket on, I had green Converse sneakers, stuff that they really couldn't get in a lot of ways, and it was amazing. I was, if I went out and kind of ventured out a little bit, I wasn't supposed to because they take your passport away, and they kind of hold on to it so you don't really go around. It was one of those kind of things, and so. But I ended up going out. I met a couple people there, and I said, "Come on, don't worry about it. Just come out with us." And I'm like, "Whatever. I'll be in the gulag probably by the next day." But I ended up going out, and people all over the streets were stopping in cars. They would stop along the avenue and point, like, "There's that guy that was on TV." And I was only one of the people that were on TV. It was like me and the band, but they recognized me from the whole thing because I had on the same kind of clothes, I guess.
That's great.
But it was great though. But they really took to it amazingly, and they didn't speak at all. Nobody spoke English. I had an interpreter with me. But they could sing Beatles songs, every word to every Beatles song. So we had a little jam one night after we had a big dinner, and I told everybody, "Come on up to my room," So I brought the whole crew up, the whole people that were there, and they were all singing. And I handed the guitar to one of the Russian guys. He played Beatles tune. I played one back and forth with that. It was so much fun. It was great. But it's funny. It's like when you go to a country like that. I mean, all we've heard about all our lives and all we've been kind of like in our brains about Russia. There was the people just wanted to know what Disneyland was all about. They didn't really want to, they were just people.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't all this Cold War craziness that we hear about. I mean, it was really, they were just really, really beautiful people. They really were.
When did you, that's a great story. When did you start thinking, all right, I want to kind of do something a little bit different now and start to do something on my own? When did that kind of enter?
When I came back from that stint I did with Marty, I came back and I came here. I started playing a lot and stuff. I did I was doing like some session work with a couple of friends. And I put together my own thing, and we made a CD, and that brings me to another step now. A friend of mine was a doctor, and I knew him since I was like 16 years old. We used to jam, guitar together. He was a little older than I was. And when I came back, and he followed me all through that whole career thing like that. Yeah. And he came back and said, "Listen, I want to make an album with you, and I want to put it out. I want to finance it for you."
Wow.
And I said, "Sounds great to me." So, and the thing that I knew about him is that he worked for Ron Delsner as a stage doctor. So when Madison Square Garden, when people came through,
he was the guy, yeah.
For insurance purposes, he had to be there. Allman Brothers played, all these bands, they all were there.
That's a great job, yeah.
So this one guy's name was John Poldello's name was. He was the manager of the Allman Brothers, and Peter Gabriel, a couple of these guys. When we made the CD, he said, "I'm going to give it a couple of people. I'm going to see what they think about it." So he gave one to Ron Delsner, and he gave one to this guy, John Poldello. So I didn't really know about who he was until I read about him. If you want to look him up, he's pretty cool, and what he did in his life and everything. And what happened was I got a phone call one morning, about 10 o'clock. I mean, I'm still asleep till 12, usually. So anyway, I get a phone call. I get on, and the guy says, "Hey, Kerry." He goes, "Yeah, I really love that slidey stuff." He goes, "It really reminds me of Dwayne a little bit and blah, blah, blah." My first album had a lot of slide guitar on it. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you very much." I was like, "Who is this?" So he keeps talking. I'm going to listen to it later on. I'll get back to you. It sounds great, man. I was like, "Thank you." I hung the phone up. About 12 o'clock, my friend calls me. He says, "Did he call you?" I'm like, "Who?" He goes, "It was John Podell." He goes, "He's the Allman Brothers manager." I said, "Really?" I was like, "Holy smoke." So in about a week or so, I got a phone call from my friend again, who spoke to John again, Podell. Yeah. He says, "Listen, I want to get him a record deal. Let's get a record deal. We only need one company. We can put him out with the Allman Brothers. We can put him out. We can get him an opening band." And I was like, "Great." So about a week goes by. We're playing in the city. And at Manny's Car Wash, it was a great, unbelievable blues club that was uptown, like 88th Street, 3rd Avenue. Fantastic. And Buddy Fox was a big part of that. And thank you, Buddy. I know you're out there somewhere. You're in Hawaii. I love you. Aloha. And he was a big part of getting us all these really great gigs, the bottom line in the city. Buddy Fox was great. And so what happened was we played that at night, and a record company was going to come and see us. They were this jazz label that were going to go blues. All we needed was a record company or something to get behind us, to get out with the Allman Brothers. So they come backstage, they come say hello to us. Okay, we're going to be outside. We'll see you later. Boom, we'll talk to you later. This is the record company called Palmetto. They're out there. And on a Saturday night, it's a long bar. Place is packed. It's like a sardine can. Great, we're playing, having a great time. I play the first song, one song. In the middle of the first song, I see them walk out the door. They left. I'm like, oh, God. So I'm playing, blah, 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 blah. That Monday morning, we were signing a record deal.
Wow.
That's all I saw. That's all. It was fantastic. I couldn't believe it. I was like blessed.
And then you were out on the road with the Allman Brothers.
What happened was they did a tour. We went and did the album. It went out, did whatever it did, and we needed that. So we went out on tour with them. It was the NASCAR Rocks tour. It was the 30th anniversary of the Allman Brothers. This is 20 years ago or more, 99. And we went out, and we started on small stages. I first got to Chicago. I pull up. There's an alternative stage. I'm like, oh, God, we're not really opening up. But, we did. People all coming in. They come. Yeah. And people would stay. We'd sell CDs. It was great. So it was getting us ready for something. Then all of a sudden we graduated. The first one we did with them on a big stage was over at the Taj Mahal at the time over in Atlantic City. Yeah. And it was just, and my hometown isn't really, we're far away enough, but they took a couple of bus loads down. All my friends came down to this thing, and it was just amazing. It was the greatest time. It was really, made us feel like we were really getting somewhere and stuff like that. We did that. In the middle of the tour with them, we took off a little bit. It was getting into the summer again, the next year, and as we were doing through the winter. And it was from the Dickie Betts. He had left the Allman Brothers and had his own band, but John Podell was still managing him. So he called us, and that summer we went out all over the West Coast with Dickie Betts, and that was fantastic too. That was great. But that was the start of me getting this whole, we can do something. We can really, the band is getting some kind of inroads. It's great. So, and now with Highlander, this new record company that we're with, they did wonders last year with stuff. I have probably about 13 CDs out, and maybe 10 of them really didn't see the light of what's going on. We had it for just, selling here at the Great South Bay, Riverhead Blues Festival, which is gone, which was fantastic. So we'd sell a bunch of CDs, like just locally we'd do it. Yeah. The new CD, the new one, the Tales from the Psychic Delta, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. You can catch it at HighlanderRecords.com. But it's a compilation of stuff that we did before. We went and remastered it a little more for like radio now.
That's great. Get some of that other stuff that hasn't
been out there, and now these guys are so good. And our other album that we first did 2 years ago with Highlander Records is right here. Smokehouse Serenade. We made number one on Blues Radio. It's amazing. And so we did like so many inroads over at Highlander, Jim over there. So
it's been, and how many years has the band been together? It's been over 20-something, right?
I just had a 20th anniversary a couple of years. It's almost 25 years. Yeah, we've been together. It's different personnel and this and that, and that came and gone. But this one has a lot of the first personnel on it, actually. First 15 years.
When you first started, what was your, I don't say mission, but your goal with the sound of it, and how has that sound evolved over the years? Over those 20-something years?
A lot of different ways. It's our sound, I could say like we kind of sound like Little Feat or something like that. I don't want to, be, saying we sound like somebody, but we have like a little, like people who like Little Feat would probably like us. Yeah. Allman Brothers would probably like us. Like regular blues people, I think, would like us. Acoustic blues people would probably like us, like Delta stuff. So
what I find interesting too is that you're when people hear the blues, and I've heard you say this before, but I agree with it completely, because people think it's depressing, it's down. You're the exact opposite. That your mission is to make people move and to have fun with it.
Yeah, I feel that if you can dance to it, it's great. All blues is almost like happy sounding in a certain sense, which I like a lot. And I find that if we can have women come and like us, all right, they want to move, they want to dance. I find that a lot of couples come and see us, right? So if the husband says, listen, I want to go see this band tonight, the wife will be like, is it dancey? Like, I think that women like to dance, what I mean? So I put in where I think, men would like us in a certain sense, with like guitar-wise, and at the same time we give a beat to it so a woman would like it. So it's like they could both come out and see us. I kind of kill that thing like that. So
there's so many different types of blues music. It's almost too much in a way, because I feel like certain groups, from what I've read, you really have decided to kind of learn, I don't say all of them, but you really have done your research and you've gone to different places. What's that like to experience for the first time, as far as, and I guess what's your favorite type?
A favorite is kind of tough. I love Piedmont
It's
blues.
a rough question.
And I'll play one of them in a little while, actually, a Piedmont type style. Piedmont is an East Coast, Georgia type thing. Blind Willie McTell.
Okay.
He was one of the guys that did kind of stuff like that. Mississippi John Hurt, who's more of a Mississippi Delta blues guy.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He plays a little bit of a Delta, like a Delta.
That makes sense that the album is like a Delta, yeah.
And it's that Piedmont type thing like that. But it's all, I mean, Louisiana, I think, is just, it's an unbelievable place of the music that comes out of everywhere, from like the Creole style, the Cajun style, the blues style, the great pianists that are out of there. You know, even guys like Fats Domino came out of there. And he was playing rhythm and blues, and they coined it rock and roll, you know what I'm saying? He was doing it like 10 years prior to when he became famous.
I'm curious, and you've been all over and toured, and like we even talked about Russia. What drew you back to Long Island and this area?
You know, it's where my home is in Breezy Point, and the whole idea of just being here. And, you know, it's like it's just a really great place to play, I think. It really is. The people are great. I think the people are very, very, they're just right on a ball with, you know, just loving the music and really being sincere about it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I can't call them fans. Like, they're all friends of mine. So it's like the idea that they're really just, like I said, they're very genuine. They're just so into it. And they're very eager to find out like what's going on next. And like I said, we've been together for almost 25 years. I still have the people that were first with us, like, come and see us all the time.
That's great.
So it's great. And then some. Then they keep, you know, like that. You get a real kick out of, like, you know, somebody on Facebook, like, saying, you know, how much they loved your show and blah, blah, blah. And you don't really know who they are. Yeah. But you know that they, you know, they're there. And, you know, just loving it like that. You know what I mean? And there's so many great, I mean, it's, besides, like, the whole Billy Joel thing, you have, like, you know, Eddie Money, you have, like, all these, like, Foghat, of course, like, all these great bands that are out there. Like, they were very accessible people. I know that you know, that he had died, you know, recently, you know, but it's like, but when they were around, like, they were so accessible. Even Billy Joel's very accessible. Even Foghat is very accessible. Like, these guys that are up, I mean, Billy Joel especially is like this icon of whatever, you know what I mean? But I mean, you see him walk down the street, probably, you know, easy guy, probably say, hey, what's going on? You know,
that's the beauty of Long Island.
Yeah, that's what's great about it.
We're chatting with Kerry Kearney on Homegrown on LTV. Why don't we do another track?
Cool. I'll do some kind of I'll do a little Piedmont thing for you.
That's great. Cool. We're live here on LTV, having some fun with Kerry Kearney, and it's a good chance to get to know him a bit and learn where he came from. And this is terrific. So, thanks for taking the time, Kerry.
It's a finger picking type of Mississippi John Hurt type song. This is off an old album. It's also off our Smokehouse Serenade. She's my girl from Memphis. She's my girl. She's my girl from Memphis. She's my girl. She was working tables when she caught my eye, sweeter than a Lance's pecan pie. She's my girl from Memphis. She's my girl. I'm 1,200 miles off from home. I'm 1,200 miles off from home. Looking for some women that we could steal, dancing with some donies, baby, down on Beale. I'm 1,200 miles, baby, from home. She's my girl from Memphis, she's my girl. She's my girl from Memphis, she's my girl. She was working tables when she caught my eye, sweeter than a Lance's pecan pie. She's my girl from Memphis, she's my girl. My girl from Memphis, she's my girl. My girl from Memphis, yeah, baby. There we go.
Hey, that was great. Kerry Kearney here, Homegrown on LTV. Thanks for once again for doing this. We were chatting earlier, I guess, and we've talked about the past. I mean, the band's been around for over 20-something years now, and It's been an interesting time over the past few months, and we were talking earlier. I know, how have you been keeping busy? And if I'm not mistaken, you're also teaching and teaching the guitar.
Yeah, I teach a lot. I teach outside, actually, on my front porch while it's still nice. I've been doing that, my 6-foot thing going on out there. Yeah, I had a lot of students. I lost a few of them over this whole time. They're a little further away to
Yeah.
live, so a little hard like that. But I've been doing some stuff online, too, a couple of things. I did something News 12, which is pretty cool, actually, one time. And that was really nice. One of the first ones I did, kind of a one of their series they were doing. They stopped doing it, I think. My father's place did one of those, and I'm doing one on the 27th. I think it's a Tuesday. I'm pretty sure 27th, over at the Warehouse over in Amityville, and it's going to be a worldwide pay-per-view.
That's
Whatever that means. I got a whole bunch of music guys together, my friends.
Is it strange doing live streams without the audience interaction?
I did a few from my house. Yeah, it is kind of odd when you're talking into the thing like that. Into the excuse me.
Man, the energy is just totally different.
It is different, and you got to kind of like what I'm doing right now, talking to you.
Yeah.
Actually, you got to kind of on top of your head. You try to think of what you're saying, at
Yeah.
the same time. But it's been okay though. It could be worse. There are a lot of musicians, my friends of mine, are probably not really doing even that well in a certain sense. But I try to, I try to key it towards what's going on and try to make it hone it into what's happening. So, and hopefully now that things are opening up, we'll be getting back out there and doing something. I mean, my thing is, I hope everything's safe. I don't want to do this because I have to do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it because it's going to be okay with everybody. I mean, for me to go play somewhere and have somebody get sick would be like, be devastating to me and everything around it. So I'm trying to make it so it's going to be okay. At the same time as holding back, like the Great South Bay especially, it's like hoping that's going to happen next year. But I find that the more we kind of be safe and not go out and try to like really make things happen, musically in a certain sense. Although everybody wants to, I'm with them. But I feel like if we could just be safe, and hopefully it's going to work out, I'm sure. It's going to come. It's going to be patient. Is what you got to do. I'm as patient as can be. So,
where do you, after 20-something years of the band, where do you want to take it next? I'd imagine there's still some boxes you want to check along the way.
I'd love to play an occasion band. I'd love to get a hold of an accordion player. I'm looking for an accordion player now for like 5 years. Seriously, a lot of keyboard players play accordion, but I really want like one of those squeeze box guys to come in like that. And I love that. I love Tex-Mex stuff too. I love like the Texas Tornadoes, they were called. And it was great. Flaco Jimenez played the squeeze box. It's just great music. It's so like infectious. Some of this music, like especially the Cajun stuff and the Tex-Mex stuff, you could just imagine like a sweaty bar, like really like in the middle of the summer somewhere in Texas or somewhere in Louisiana, and there's 200 people just dancing like crazy and going crazy. I mean, I'd love to do that. That's great.
That's why you do it. It's fun to chat with you because you are so passionate about the sound and the music itself. It's not about fame per se, or I mean, since you were a teenager, you threw yourself into this. What are the 2 records you have in front of you? I just want to make sure we point those out again.
This is this
to
our
our
new
audience.
CD. Our new one with Highlander Records is called Tales from the Psychedelta. It's right here.
Nice.
And this is our one we have also still going on. This is our first one we did with Highlander called Smokehouse Serenade.
Tell us a little bit about that record because I know there's some good stories there.
Smokehouse is it's a CD that we did. I had some tunes in my head kind of popping around for a while, and we finally went in and did it. And with Highlander taking it, he had some he had done a couple of management things with a couple of bands like in the past, and he had seen us play, and he loved us what we did, and so he said, I want to do an album with you. I want to do a CD with you guys. Da, da, da. So I just kind of did it and put it into his hands and let it happen. And all of a sudden, within a few weeks, a chart came in one day, this blues chart, and we were number 1 on the chart.
Wow.
I was like, I'm looking at the chart, I'm like, really? I wouldn't even think about even looking there. There's a famous story really quick I want to tell you about
Sure.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Blood, Sweat, and Tears had Al Cooper played in the band, right? And they played for a couple of years together back in like mid-60s. And they were pretty much an underground band. They played in the Village a lot. They weren't like on the radio a lot. They were like, on maybe some obscure stations. So what happened was he had a big fight with the rest of the band, Al Cooper supposedly, and he left. So they did an album, and it was with David Clayton Thomas, the singer, right? Blood, Sweat, and Tears. You made me so, that album, very happy, Spinning Wheel, all that stuff. So the guitar player in the band, after he put it out, I think it was like Columbia or something like that, he called Billboard and said, are we charting even? And the woman, the billboard on the other end says, oh, I don't see you on here, top 100. He said, yeah, I thought so. I thought it was like one of those things again. She called him back in 2 minutes and said, guess what? You're number one. I wasn't looking there. And that's the truth. And they headlined Woodstock, but they didn't believe in the movie, so they never signed the contract with the movie.
You hear that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so that you never saw them. But they would headline. They had the number one album that summer.
Oh, jeez.
1969, yeah.
That's a great story. You've been doing this a long time. How long do you want to keep doing this?
Until I can't do it anymore. You know what I mean?
Keep moving.
I'm still 15 in my head.
There's no Florida. All right, you want to stick around?
No. Oh, let me tell you something. Florida. No. I love New York.
And you're
I
still,
love. You know, let me tell you something. My reasons why I won't leave New York is pizza, Chinese food,
good reasons.
deli, Greek food. I mean, I can go on and on. Seafood. I can't. I'm sure there's seafood in Florida, but I'll go on and on. But pizza. I mean, that's the one food I can eat every day.
Well, you really are a tremendous ambassador for Long Island music, and it's really great to see because it's. I'm curious as we get ready to wrap up and do one final song. Are there any artists locally that you've been listening to that you've kind of been championing?
You know, I love. Well, he's gone now. Sam Taylor. They have a new album now too, called a band called Sam, and they have a great band. And my drummer play with them in the band. And I remember Sam Taylor. I remember like little Buster. I mean, guys are my contemporaries too. Guys like Danny Keane. He's a really great keyboardist, fantastic singer. I mean, this guy's got soul you wouldn't believe. You know, fantastic. You know, I mean, those guys like that. I mean, Shecky Davis over at Shecky and the Twang Tones. I mean, these are guys that I jam with once in a while. It's really great. I can go on and on. I don't want to leave anybody out. I feel bad about that.
I know.
You know what I mean? But there's like so many really great artists out there. Really great, and in all facets of like music that they're playing. You know what I mean? It's really something. And I guess I can go on and on. I don't want to.
You are, but and as we wrap up, you're a great ambassador too, because if you think about, I think about the Kerry Kearney now that's 13, that's learning the guitar. How does he get exposed to the blues? And you're giving lessons, and you're really you're an ambassador for it still, which is terrific. Yeah,
I find that, it's funny because you hear blues on like a car, commercial and stuff like that, and you don't really hear it out there at the same time, and it's not on the regular radio. It's not like being pushed like that at the same time. You got to kind of find it, and that's where blues radio is really interesting, because if you can keep your CD on there for 3 weeks, and it might be like one show a week, I mean, you're doing well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the same time, but there's a big market out there. I think if people heard it, if they were more exposed to it, I think it would really be great. I mean, bluegrass is not like that. It's similar to that, where it's like if you're exposed to it, it's great. Jazz is something, it's kind of a flavor. It's like a lot of people don't understand it. So it's all like that. But blues music has that four on the floor type thing like that, going with like shuffles and stuff like that. So anybody can get a handle on it. I remember playing in the Village, real quick, at Kenny's Castaways. This is going back before we did the tour, probably about almost 20 years ago. And we were playing late at night there. We were like one of the house bands type thing like that, you'd say. So we go on at like 12 o'clock and play till like 3. So all NYU students would come down. They'd hang out with us and stuff. And I remember this one day, they were all dancing one day, and this kid like fell on the stage almost. And he goes, "Yo, man, did you write that?" And I remember it was a Muddy Waters song, like "I'm a Man." And I'm like, "Man, I'll talk to you a little while."
Yeah.
So I gave him the whole thing about there's a lot. If you don't know what this is, it's really, and you like it, there's a world out there you don't know about it. It's gonna be, you're gonna love it.
What would you recommend for someone that's trying to get into the blues and learn it? What would you tell them? Where to start?
I would say listen to all the greats. Number one, like get your education with it like that. Go to jams. I mean, there's a great jams. I mean, Jim Moran is a great jam. I just played with him recently. Actually, he's a great guitar player. He does jams all the time. There's one I think in Sayville. I mean, I'm sure there's some out here too, a little more out east. But that whole thing is, you go and you play at a jam, and you can find musicians. Yeah. You find kids your own age, guys, all this stuff. And they have like some places have it open where you can be 13 or 14 and come up and jam, you know what I mean? But even like older people, they get together, that's how they find jam people. I did it like that. I went out a couple of times, and I found my band kind of like that. I've heard about them in different areas playing with different people, and I kind of seek them out, and they kind of seek me out at the same time too. Like Mario and Jerry, my Jerry Sorrentino and Mario Stano, my drummer, and Jerry Sorrentino, my bass player, they played with Savoy Brown for years, and they're a big English blues band, you know what I mean? And they're like notorious people from the island, at the same time. And I'm lucky to have them. My favorite thing, and if you can find it out there, is find a great rhythm section, because it makes you better. It makes you feel like you can do things. If I can play the guitar and not think,
It's good advice. Yeah.
it's the best thing. If I got to think, it's hard. You know what I mean? But if I'm sitting there, I can just go on a cloud somewhere, and these guys are playing behind me. It's the greatest thing in the world. They're like top notch. They're the greatest. You know what I mean?
We're chatting with Kerry Kearney, LTV's Homegrown. Why don't we do one more song
Yeah, I'll do
before we
a
wrap
Delta
up
blues.
tonight? And thank you so much for doing this. This is great.
Thanks, Al.
We appreciate this, and this is cool. We look forward to getting back in the swing of things, hopefully in 2021. We'll see where it goes with shows, and hopefully get you back at the Great South Bay Music Festival and everything. Once again.
Here we go. Oh, come on, babe. Come on, see me one more time. Come on, baby. Come and see me one more time. You know I love you, mama. You know I love that you're mine. Yeah, come back, baby. You gotta come right back to me. Come back, baby. You gotta come right back to me. You gotta love me, pretty baby, 'cause you're the only girl I see. Yeah. Oh, come back, mama. Come back to me one more time. I come back, mama. Yeah. Come back to me one more time. You gotta love me, pretty baby, 'cause she let me know you are mine.
Very nice. Kerry Kearney on LTV's Homegrown. It is an honor to be chatting with Kerry for the hour today. We really appreciate your time. We've got the records there. Of course, there's a new one that's out. And when we get to, I just want to mention that one more time. There's two on Highlander, but you've got Smokehouse Serenade, and you also have the new one.
The new one, yeah, Tales from the Psychedelta. It's a compilation of stuff that we had that we remastered for radio and stuff like that. And it sounds great. Sounds really, really cool.
Have you been writing during this process, or have?
You know what's funny?
past
On the
few
way
months?
here, I was writing something in my head, actually, as I was driving.
Is that how it usually goes that way?
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll have something like that, and I'll put it onto like a little recorder, or I'll call a friend, and I'll put it on their phone.
That's great.
I'll say, don't erase this, like that. So, yeah.
Well, they get a songwriting credit, I hope, or something. Yes, that's very interesting. How long does it take to write a song?
That's a
We
good
do have
question.
to wrap up, but I'm
That's a great
curious.
question.
Final question.
All right, final question. You know, it's funny. I've written songs that took a little while, and I thought about it, and I've written songs that took 3 minutes, and I find 3 minute songs are the best within 3 minutes, because it's like you can go and be really, really, mental about it, but it all comes down to just it. And some people read into it what they want to read into it.
Yeah.
So the amount of time they're using to get something that somebody to read into, it's like they're probably not even listening to what's going on at the same time. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example really quick.
Okay,
I know we're almost done, but let me see. Went out of tune that last song. I made it seem like not done. Just like a song I did. It took like a couple minutes. It's like a regular riff, like that. It's called Shaking Like Jelly. You shaking like jelly. I'm your peanut butter boy. Yeah, she shakes like jelly. I'm your peanut butter boy. Yeah, spread it on you, baby. I'm gonna be a jar of joy. You know, it's just,
It just comes.
and those kind of
naturally.
songs are what people remember. So when you say, put that jelly song again. It's just like a stupid little innuendo if you want to take it that way or whatever it is. But shake, but ever get the whole audience when I go, shaking like jelly, shaking like jelly, shaking like jelly, shaking. Everybody gets into it. So it's fun.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool.
So it's a pretty quick process, really. It can be.
I find it can be, yeah. I mean, in that case, it can be. I'm not really a Dylan-esque type of prolific type of writer. Some songs I have
The melody
tried
comes
that with my
first, and
acoustic
then-
versions of something I do. But otherwise, it's like I find doing this is a lot easier. Not a lot easier. It's just, and to me, it's more fulfilling that people will sing back what you're doing too. So it's fun.
That's very nice. Well, I wish you the best in the future as we
Thanks,
get back to normal, hopefully sooner than later. You've got a show on the 27th, too, coming up, right?
Yeah, at the Warehouse in Amityville. Yes.
We'll get all the details, too. We'll link
You
to
know,
that.
it's gonna be a pay-per-view. So I mean, the audience already, it's pretty much sold out already in a certain sense.
Okay.
But it's going to be on a pay-per-view, so it'll be like something you could tune into my either Highlander Records or tune into KerryKearney.com or go to my Facebook. I'll have it there like that too. If you want to be my Facebook friend, just come on down.
That's perfect.
I got some stuff open. So
well,
cool.
thank you for sitting down. This has been
Thanks,
great.
Harry.
Really appreciate learning all about your journey here, so to speak.
Thanks.
Homegrown on LTV with Kerry Kearney. Thanks again, and best of luck in the future as we get back to normal.
Thank you too, man. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone for tuning in tonight for Homegrown on LTV. It's been a pleasure with Kerry. Thank you so much.